Welcome to the Etna Township Board of Trustees regular meeting, Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, 6 p.m. I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the invocation. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mink. Lord, thank you for this day and thank you for the citizens of our township and the freedoms that we enjoy here. I pray for those who are out supporting our freedoms, who are keeping us safe. And I pray for the war that's over across the world for us, that you will calm that down and make peace there. Be with those who are missing their loved ones if they are off defending us. Amen.
Amen. Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mrs. McKee. Here.
All right. I move to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Johnson seconds. Discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Mrs. McKee. Yes.
All right. Adoption of meeting minutes. Laura had just completed February 1st and 9th. However, we haven't had a chance to review those, so I'm going to put those off until the next meeting. Also, the February 15th. Public comments. You're limited to 5 minutes. You're free to come up here, state your name and address, and let us know your thoughts. Anyone?
Steve Holloway. Steve Holloway, 11047 North Road. I'm here tonight to kind of let you know that we had a meeting, briefing on Intel. It was hosted by the Licking County Planning Commission, which I'm a member, and MORPC, Middle Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Ms. McKee was there also on our invitation. I'm here speaking on myself as a citizen and a resident of Etna Township, not as part of the Planning Commission. I just want to kind of get you up to date. Some of this stuff you already know, some things you don't know, and some things that, the reason I'm here is so you guys kind of can get ready for some things. Intel is going to bring 3,000 jobs, $405 million payroll, $20 billion investment, 7,000 construction jobs, 10,000 plus indirect jobs. They currently use about 140 Ohio suppliers, $87 million worth, and that's going to increase quite a bit. They were also voted, if you want to talk about what kind of company they are, for 2022, they were voted in this country the best company to
something you could possibly consider too is actually looking for
work for and the most responsible. So we've got a good operation coming our way. Phase 1 will start in 2025, commercial production. We're awaiting legislation to pass. It's called the CHIP Act. And we're currently working on permits and pre-construction. It'll eventually be 7 buildings. And one thing I thought was interesting, a question came up is, a lot of this, when we were working on this industrial park, we talked about a railroad spur. And one of them, a gentleman asked if there was a railroad there, and they said, no, that's one of the reasons they wanted that piece of land. This area, Newark, where the Air Force Base is, and where they're putting this, is a perfect spot for what they're doing, because to do what they do to make the quality chips that they have to make, they have to have absolutely no vibration. That's right. No ground vibration at all. The Air Force Base, that's why it's there, because they need that also. But I thought that was really kind of interesting, and that's why they picked that spot. The county, we have four issues that we're concerned about. One is workforce development, transportation, housing, and sustainability. Workforce development. Intel is pledging $100 million in the next 10 years to Ohio colleges with their engineering programs. Ohio State will probably be about half of that, but it's going to include a lot of small colleges, C-Techs, those type of things also. They're also looking to develop the K-12 talent program. They want to expand STEM and teacher externships. I'm not sure what that means exactly. STEM-focused camps, internships, and company engagement. I'll be meeting with the school board on that, on what's going on with that later this month. Transportation. There's an additional lane going in on 161 between 270 and 62. Mink, around the 161 interchange, is going to go to 5 lanes. Jug Street, it's going to go to 3 lanes between Beach and Harrison. The county, we're developing a thoroughfare plan for the rural Licking County. Johnstown's also putting together a mobility map. In other words, I think it's probably beyond us right now, but with all the development we have, it's a matter of people finding out bus routes, Uber, ways to get to the job. They're developing that mobility app as we speak. I think what you'll be interested in as a county, and you might have already heard this, is that we're developing we're hiring a consultant right now to do a water sewer analysis of the entire county. That will include Etna Township, obviously. We also are doing a transportation plan update that we'll be adopting in 2024. We're hiring a consultant to do that work as we speak. Housing, and this is where I wanted to talk about here. We're going to get some more companies. I don't think we're going to get anything more than what you're kind of seeing now. What you're seeing now, the trend is going to continue. I don't think we're going to get an onslaught from Intel. They're going to be all over the place, especially in New Albany, Johnstown, that area. It will trickle down this way, but I think housing is something that we're going to see probably more than anything. I don't know if you know Hull Surveying. Jim Roberts, he just sold it, but he owned it, a good friend of mine. He's probably one of the larger surveyors in this county. He does a lot of work for the industrial park. He does a lot of work for subdivisions, and you probably know him or met some of his employees. He has had more subdivision requests in the last 30 days than he has had in the last 10 years. Wow. To give you an idea. All right, so we're expecting, Licking County is about 177,000 people. In central Ohio, it's probably about 1.5 million. Don't quote me on that, but we're looking at that to go to 3 million by 2050. So it's at least double to triple. Action steps for housing on the county and state level. They're going to do source of income protection laws. They're going to go for a state house tax credit. And they're going to adopt green tape development reviews, and I'll get back to that in a minute. They're going to pilot diverse, lower-cost housing products, and they're going to do tenant-based rental assistance. It's a $405 million salaries on that, or $405 million in payroll. But there's still going to be a lot of low-paying jobs, and people who need housing, and they're expecting this, and they're going to help. Green tape development, you know what red tape is. It's keeping people out. Green tape is letting people in. And one of the things that we need to do in the township is we need to be ready for that. We cannot exclude people just because they can't afford $200,000, $300,000 houses. So to stop the lawsuits, we need to get zoning, pick those spots. This is where your long-range plan is, but this is you're going to have to move. It's 2005, things are going to start really kicking in gear, and that's only 3 years away. You're going to have to get zoning in areas where you think dense and multifamily housing dwellings can go. You need to find out where those go and create those districts, PUDs, whatever you need to do. You need to figure out where those are at. You've got to have something. You cannot just exclude the people. As long as you have districts and areas, then that's fair, as far as the government's concerned, in my opinion. So I'm asking you to consider that when you're looking at long-range planning in the future, as you're looking at where to put things, is we need to have spots for that type of housing for people. The other thing is that, one of the things that I talked with our director about, my concern is that it's hard to, any one township to kind of get what they want. It's hard, they just want, whether it's Jersey, whether it's St. Albans, whether it's Etna, even Pataskala, whatever it is, hard. So what I've asked our director, and I welcome you to contact him and to get the ball rolling here, is to get townships together and working for your township, with the state township associations that we have, whatever. Get together, the group most connected to this, and kind of go at it as one instead of separate. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to ask, but I wanted to get you updated. That's what's going on. You have what's current now with Intel, and there's some things I'm sure we need to look at.
One question I did have is, I met with Pataskala, and this is the first I heard of it, that they're talking about a Mink exchange now at 70 due to Intel. Have you heard anything about it? Because I always heard either at the Parkway or Colgate, more so at the Parkway.
No, I haven't heard anything. Yeah, we looked at well, Taylor Road, we're just getting it now, and that's over 20 years in the making. ODOT doesn't have any money right now. Right now, the talk is Thornwood. That's something that's been worked out for quite a while, Thornwood, and then they also have 37. Having got talked about Mink, I haven't heard anything on that. ODOT only has so much money. I can't see that right now.
Well,
Maybe
I was just wondering if
they're
you heard.
talking, but no. Haven't heard anything. Thornwood is number one at parallel 79,
Yeah.
and then 37.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Mr. Engler?
Good evening. I'm Roger Diegelbeard. I live at 533 Ballman Road. And I can add on to what he just said about housing, specifically multifamily housing. I took a course about 10 or 12 years ago at Oklahoma State, and they were talking about ways to incorporate housing for people who don't have a lot of money, like people who work at these warehouses. Because we're subsidizing their salaries with things like food stamps and stuff like that. A lot of those people get government assistance because they don't make enough money working for Amazon and these other places who all got great big tax breaks for moving in here. Maybe they ought to pay their way coming in. But at any rate, on the matter of multi-family housing, about 8 or 10 years ago, I was on the committee that developed the long-range plan. And we looked at the idea of not having any multifamily housing zoned here in the township. So at one monthly meeting, we said, well, tell you what, why don't we recommend the area where FedEx is now for multifamily housing, that great big area. Okay, then the next month we came back, and several people on the committee who were wealthy said, you know, we really don't want those people, and they said it just like that, those people. We don't want those people living out here. And they overturned the change we had made the previous month. Well, yes, of course I had at Oklahoma State. They talked about a court case that came up in Westchester County, north of New York City, which was a wealthy county. And they didn't want those people living there either. Well, they were subjected to a lawsuit, and the county wound up paying millions and millions and had to change some of their zoning so that people who didn't make a lot of money could live around there. The people who don't make a lot of money are the ones working up and down 310 here, who working in all these warehouses and stuff. I see coming and going out 40, people on foot from where the bus stop is down there, you know, across Glen Rest. Walking on foot, coming out here to a job. Those people ought to be able to live out here someplace. And I think we ought to talk with Morpsey and Coda to see about running the bus line on farther out. Now about another interchange on 70, I know there was talk a few years ago about running Etna Parkway right down, because they had looked at what's across the street or across the freeway and down into Fairfield County. And it looked like it would relieve a lot of traffic at 256. People could come out and then go down to 204 from the 70 change. Something to look at. That's
Then regarding the multifamily, that part of our planned residential conservation district, the PRCD, it is allowed there. And I think that is one of the good mixes where you have that multifamily with single family. So you can start at an apartment and go into a ranch or a single family within that development. Anybody else?
And that was one that you're going to be with.
No, that's a planned mixed-use development, but it is mixed use with apartments, single family, commercial. It is a mix of units. Mr. Lawrence?
Resident Rooms, 6781 Palmer Road, Apartment A. As of Thursday, 3 p.m., I put in my resignation, but I wish to present my resignation as you, Trustee Evans and Don Coakley both told me that it would look better on my resignation or on my resume if I resigned instead of being terminated, and I wish to pull that. And then also in my personal file, there was no disciplinary actions in my personal file. It states immediate supervisor. An individual had been authorized by the township trustees to oversee and direct work of employees. It states that immediate supervisor, disciplinary authority and responsibility. Immediate supervisor may issue verbal and written warnings to members of their departments and should provide any documentation to the board of trustees. There is no documentation of any verbal or written warnings in my document. Along with that, I've looked over the list of offenses, and a lot of them on the statement of receipt that you've given me have been false because they are not on the list that you can discipline me for. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else?
George Lorenz, 432 Fallsburg. I'm here on behalf of Wes. I was looking over his employee warning notice and the way that things happen. And like he said, in the manual, there's nothing that says you can't fail a test. It can't be used against you. Backing over a mailbox, putting the car in a ditch, anything, hitting a garage door, all the employees up there have done something at one time or another in one of those trucks. There's been no discipline, and no one's been written up and given 3 days off without that. I understand that you don't like that you put him on restricted duty. It was, a week after the crash, which he wasn't permitted to drive anything, which is fine. My big issue is the fact that he was, when he did pass his CDL test, he was given 45 minutes with somebody else with a truck, with a plow to drive, and then was told, go plow, go salt. You want to hold him accountable for that. He didn't receive the proper training, he was false at it. On the write-up, it says the Board of Trustees, the immediate supervisor, can give verbal warnings and written warnings to members of the department with documentation like Wes said. There's absolutely nothing in his file. The only thing in his file is a written statement from Stephen about how he pulled out in front of somebody. Was there a complaint that was filed? Is there any record if the person filed the complaint, sent an email or anything? Because no one asked him about it. The Board of Trustees disciplinary authority. The Board of Trustees may enforce any types of discipline, including termination. He was given a 3-day suspension without pay. Was that approved by the board? Or was that just one member?
We'll be dealing with this. I mean, you
Yeah,
can stay with, you can stay.
Just asking. So all of the prior warnings that were given, you know as well as I do, whether they're given verbally or written, need to be documented. And those documents have to be secured in personnel file. There's absolutely nothing in there, nothing. So that's basically it. I'm not going to go into anything else about any other employees at this time.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Ryan Davis, 8807 Watkins Road. I guess maybe the last couple speakers speak to what I'm going to speak to now, is my personal and several people in the community's desire for a full-time administrator. I think, I don't want to point fingers at the last board, unfortunately that's the past, we can't change anything. I think from this day forward, this board, as created, has the opportunity to really shape this township with all the development that the first gentleman spoke to, everything that's going to be coming at us so quickly. Having a part-time or even an interim is not going to have the time vested and the interest in this community. I think, just to mention some of the things that they could start on tomorrow, that were addressed in the last meeting, that have been issues for a long time. The past audit still needs a lot of work to be done. Compliance, that goes without saying. The transition, this board would have benefited tremendously and not had probably the last meeting had with a better transition. Policies, the mailbox. You guys really discussed the mailbox, but it sounds like there wasn't a clear policy. So every policy, everything that can make this board function more efficiently needs to be gone through by somebody that has experience and the knowledge to create something to make your guys' job go easier and to make the community run better. Employees, this situation with this gentleman back here, I don't know much about it. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it sounds like there's some muddy in the water. So maybe there's some thing that could have been prevented to make his expectations more clear, to make the penalties clear. You know, we'll find out when you guys discuss that part. I'm kind of curious. And the number of employees are going to grow. I mean, this township is going to need more guys working on the crew. There's no doubt about it. Annexation. I've heard that come up a few times. That's kind of scary. I mean, we could be our own city right now if we wanted to be, or try to push that way. We've got a potential issue with annexation. I mean, somebody that's working full-time, full focus, has the knowledge to address that issue could be dealing with that versus putting that on any of you, or all of you for that matter. I don't know, I'm not going to get into who's doing what or how much, but it's not fair. That's not, to me personally, I don't think that's your role, and I think you're to oversee the township and speak for the people. And we need people to do the hard work and do the work that's going to require a lot of time. You've got a full-time job. I mean, I know Ms. McKee, you're retired. You've got a full-time job.
I have a full-time job.
You have a full-time job?
It's a
Okay,
contract.
so there we go. We got
It's a
three.
contract job, but I can work around for
There you
now.
go. So we got 3 people with full-time jobs. So, I mean, you guys don't, there's not enough hours in the day. I think they could benefit. I think you guys could benefit tremendously. The comprehensive plan, that needs to be started immediately. We can't begin to do anything as a township until we get a comprehensive plan updated to talk about where the housing is going to go, where the next development is going to go, the road structure, all the stuff you guys have beaten and said over and over again. We've got to get that updated. I'm kind of nervous about the postponement of the administrator interviews and the note of the interim administrator. I don't know what that's going to be. I'll wait and see like the rest of us. But Jeff, I'm sure you can speak to it. I've told there's been sometimes meetings where maybe one person shows up, and I think we've had a full house since the first year. There's a lot of people interested in various things. I'm not saying just the administrator, I'm saying just various things about this township. There's a lot more that aren't coming to meetings. So I think we need to address this now before it becomes a bigger issue for the board and for the township. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Steve Perkins, 7352 Palm Road. Just want to kind of echo a little bit of his remarks there as well. As a public employee myself, who's recently walked into a position that I guess I would say has not gotten the attention that it deserves. And you know, when you get that, especially in a public realm, you tend to get something that runs like a hot chick in a horror movie, which is not well. Bumps into things, beats around, and just doesn't really get anywhere. I know I speak for myself, but when I cast my vote in an election, I didn't really cast a vote for anybody to have the necessary skills to administrate a township. I was looking for somebody to represent my voice in the township. I think that'd be kind of few and far between, or rather unexpected, to magically get those two in one. So the administration, if you have an administrator, full-time administrator, it puts a firewall between that stuff. Aside from personal time commitments, aside from people who want people on the board to echo their voice versus their ability to administrate a township, I don't think you're trying to fulfill both those roles necessarily at this scale when you try to cast a vote. So I just want to echo the sentiment that I think that it's time that Etna has a full-time administrator to take care of the daily tasks, so that if there, even if there's disruption on the board, somebody resigns, something like that, you get the carryover and the carry through that the administration of the township still happens. And you've put your faith in them as an administrator. They were hired for that task that separates it from the need of the board to perform those functions, or to have the loss or gain of that should personnel change. So I just want to echo Ryan's sentiments on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Aaron Young, 9167 Taylor Road Southwest. And I echo that too. I strongly agree with what the two gentlemen said about full-time administrator. And I also would strongly agree with the previous meetings for the arguments for full-time administrator. Just kind of getting into this campaign before the election, understanding kind of what's going on and now what's going on as far as having to address some of those issues. Full-time administrator does. I mean, it just only makes sense. I know it costs money, but it makes sense and it's best for the township. Also, I think maybe someone had said before that it also separates the issues from the votes too. But I do strongly agree with the full-time administrator. I think it's very important. What I came up here though for also is the last meeting, unless I missed a meeting, but the last meeting there was a discussion about moving forward with social media, and Facebook and YouTube was used as examples for those, for social medias and posting videos. I just want to let you know, for myself, I've never had a Facebook account. I have friends and family members that don't have those, and some of us too don't do YouTube. There's some concerns with that. This will sound kind of strange, but one of the concerns I have is that in 2003 and 2004, the Pentagon and DARPA were trying to institute a program called LifeLog. And that program was killed without explanation in early February. I got an article here February 4th. LifeLog is exactly what Facebook does today. And the other very interesting thing is that Facebook launched that day in February. That's always been interesting to me, but I've never been part of Facebook, and it's always kind of been a roadblock there for some of us that don't do those types of social media platforms. Another thing of concern, which none of us, even the township, would not condone violence, but one of the platforms that Facebook banned, and YouTube, back in 2018, 2019, one of those platforms pointed me to what Facebook was doing. And they were right. When I went to Facebook and I looked on their own policies, their Facebook community standards for violence and incitement, you can pull it up today, it's still there. But it's back in April of 2019. And under their Section 1 Violence and Incitement Policy, they say do not post. And they say statements advocating violence unless the target is an adult public figure convicted or accused of certain crimes or is a member of a dangerous organization. So Facebook determines what that dangerous organization is. And so they end up censoring and deplatforming folks because they can say you can post these things if it's a certain individual public figure accused of certain crimes. So you may not be a criminal, that maybe there's a political motivation to accuse somebody of something. It goes on through their policy, different statements about violent acts, not posting violent acts unless it's a public figure accused of certain crimes. That's another concern. There's also instances and reports where Facebook has censored news organizations such as NPR. I'm not a fan of NPR, but I am an American, a fan of the First Amendment. And when I see media companies being censored and suspended because they're trying to report something that Facebook may not like, it's a concern. And I know when the statement about bringing Facebook or YouTube into it, part of that directive was to be able to communicate better with the community. Again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, an account suspended from Facebook, and she's a representative in Congress.
Yeah,
United States Congress.
Do you have a lot more? You've been up there 5 minutes, and I don't want to cut you short, but if there's information you can get to us that we'll look at, if you
Yes,
have a lot more.
I will give this to you, and I can send my email address to you in case you have trouble looking at it. Just a strong point here is on YouTube, which is owned by Google, YouTube removes Leon County School Board meeting video over COVID rules.
Okay.
All right, and we've got YouTube removed Shawnee Mission School Board meeting video that includes parent debunked mask claims.
Right.
And we have YouTube takes down, all right.
I understand. We'll be here all night. I don't want to get another 4-hour meeting like last time, but
I got you,
if you
bro.
could give me that information, I'll be
Okay.
sure to share with the board.
All right.
We'll definitely take that into consideration when we bring it back, because we don't have that on the agenda tonight. So.
Sure. Do you want that email, or do you want me to hand you this?
Yeah, I can take it, and I'll make a copy, or if you want to email.
Thank you.
That's fine. All right, thank you. Is there anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right, public comments are closed. We'll move on to reports. We've got the road report. I got that from Mr. Copley. And let's just go through that. What we got? Everything was fine with that. Zoning report, we had 10 new permits that came in, and everything's looking good there. Water and sewer, I didn't see anything coming in from Trent. So I didn't see that. Fire district, anything, Joe? Cemetery, Mrs. McKee?
No, nothing on that.
Parks and Rec?
Yep, I got an additional farmer that may be interested in being a part of that bidding for that piece of land that we have over there, so it's a total of 7 million.
Oh, okay. That's good. And then JEDZ 1 and 2 reports, I didn't see any of those. I know the last 2 meetings, I think there were special meetings were canceled. And then the JEDZ, I didn't see any report on there. So I'll have to look at the next one. Moving on to old business. Administrator, the hiring process. I put this on here to discuss. At our last meeting, it was determined that we're going to interview the people that have applied today and that applied up until the 28th. The board, the other members did not want to interview. So the interviews did not take place today. I was disappointed. We had one applicant pull their application because of that and because of the last meeting. I'm really concerned that we're sending mixed messages out of it's full-time, maybe part-time, after it was approved full-time. And then we're going to interview. No, we're not going to interview. So I just want to see what this board's direction is or where we're moving forward, because I really think we need a full-time administrator, and we're setting out mixed messages where we're not going to get good applicants if they see that we can't even keep to a decision from meeting to meeting. So.
Did you get that package today, David? And the email I sent you yesterday?
Yes, I got that. But what I'm talking about is we approved a description and the ad for full-time, and then the next meeting, it was indicated that it should be part-time. And then we decided to interview today at the last meeting and then try to set that up. Mrs. McKee and Mr. Johnson said, we're not going to move forward with interviews. And again, that's sending mixed messages.
I don't think we have a qualified candidate from what I saw in resumes. That was what's interviewing. That's how I felt about it. So if we have better people come in, then I'd be fine with the interview, but I don't feel we had.
But we agreed to, and I'm sorry if I interrupted.
Right, but that's what I saw.
But we agreed at that meeting that we were going to interview. What changed between that meeting and, well, we had the applications in.
Right, I had not seen one of them. I remember, I'd seen 3, but not the other one. I didn't feel the other one was worthy either. And I hoped that that one would be somebody we thought I could hire, or that I could approve for hiring, which wasn't the case.
Well, I know we had, from what I saw, 15 minutes is not a long time to interview for an administrator. That's what I saw that we were going to allow for tonight. Also, we didn't have base questions that we probably wanted to have in place. There was a lot of things that we just didn't have in place for it. I never said that we weren't going to hire an administrator, just trying to figure out which direction we should go in. And I didn't see any resumes that I thought were somebody that I would be interested in.
Regarding the 15 minutes, I tried to schedule and I tried to work with this board asking how much time do you want with each applicant. As with the fiscal officer interviews, I had spent considerable time prior to the interview basically talking to them on the phone and answering all my questions. So that's when that came about. I really didn't have any questions. However, I reached out to both other board members numerous times asking how much time you wanted, how we wanted to set it up, and I got no responses. And this was within a week of this meeting. People need to prepare. So that's when I told our secretary to schedule those for 15 minutes, because I would have done the same thing of pre-interview and discuss it with them. I wouldn't need more. And it was at that time that Mrs. McKee, you indicated that if the board decides to move forward with interviews, which in my mind we already did, that you would like an hour. And I responded saying, that's fine, I'll agree to whatever you want. If it makes it easier, you can handle the scheduling of that, since you have the requirements you want. And I'd be fine with it. And the email that I received back is, I am not interviewing at this time.
Right, and
So,
because of the qualifications, I just didn't see a resume that I thought would be somebody I would be interested in. But I still would say we at least need to do an hour, if not 45 minutes to an hour for an interview. And there should be a process, not just the 3 of us as boards. I could see us doing it as a process. Somebody that's worked in that capacity would be a great person to interview them, get them through that, and then the next phase after reviewing the resumes, and then us being the last to make the decision as a board who should be interviewed or take that position. So we would have a 3-step process to interview that person and decide. And I think that would be fair.
But I'm confused that at the previous meeting, you saw all the resumes and we decided to move forward to interview. And between then and now is when you decided not to interview them.
Yeah, I had a second thought after looking over. And Jeff, just to let you know.
Well, like I said, I'm very concerned that we're sending mixed messages that this board cannot even hold to our decisions from meeting to meeting. And we're not going to get good applicants. Again, one already was pulled.
We still don't have good applicants, I don't feel.
But
I mean, so you're saying we're going to get good applicants, we're looking for good applicants. I'd be very interested in interviewing somebody that was a good applicant. I didn't feel that any of them were good applicants. In fact, one of them already pulled, like you were saying. That's the reason Mike wants we don't need interviews because they're not, I mean, when you do resumes, when you push the job, you get the resumes in, you look through those, you pick the ones that you think are qualified. You want to interview everybody, so you're assuming everybody's qualified. The one guy didn't even send a resume. He sent like a typed letter. It looked like it was, you know, no offense to him, but it looked like it was, he did it on an old typewriter, an old word processor somehow. I mean, is that somebody worth interviewing? The same as we give somebody else who's highly qualified the same amount of time?
Well, if you recall at the last meeting, I said because we only have 4, we can interview all of them. We weren't going to pre-select.
Right. That's what I'm saying, but I thought we would have this new one that I had not read at the time. Would possibly be one, and I'd be interested in interviewing that person.
I don't know if I recall, you said you were familiar with the 2, but you didn't see the other 2. And like I said,
Well, I'd seen the third one. I just didn't realize that.
But what I'm saying is this board is putting out very mixed messages, and that was the sole reason the one person pulled their application. And I know there's others that were interested in applying, but aren't applying now because of the inconsistency with the board. I mean, again, we vote in full-time, and the immediate next meeting, there's discussion of part-time. Then we vote to interview, then we don't. We need to make informed decisions. That's what I try to do, provide this board. Everything I submit, I provide before the meeting. Now, it doesn't appear that it's reviewed. And if we're going to function properly, I think we need to make that change. Start doing it right. So where are we at now at administrator? Are we just hoping more come in? We had one come in yesterday.
I didn't see that one. For administrator?
Yes.
Where's that one at?
I saw
In
it.
your email?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Well, I presented you, Mark and Jeff, with a packet today, and also forwarded you an email yesterday. Hopefully, that you
Is that the
guys
one? I
got
didn't
to
see
look
that.
over it. It's
You had a different one.
a company.
I'm sorry, you had a different one though, right?
What do you mean different one? I got this today.
Right, but I'm saying different one than Ross is saying different. The one
Yeah, it was a
you had.
resume we got yesterday.
A resume.
A resume. Yeah, I don't know what this is.
Separate from what you're.
Oh, you haven't looked over it yet, Mark? And I sent you an email yesterday too for that. It wasn't, this is the backup, he was in here today, that gentleman. So I gave you that, and then email yesterday I forwarded and sent out to the 2 of you guys.
Okay, but my question, I don't know what this is because he's got a company that he consults. So is it, I mean, I guess I could wait for you to present it, but is it a consulting? Is it an administrator? I don't know what he's
Okay.
doing.
All right.
Or when you're gonna, are you presenting that now under the
Well-
administrator hiring process?
Well, because it's new business, if we can
Well, I
present.
think it's fine, it's under administrator. It's administrative position, right?
Yeah, it's an
Okay.
administrative position.
I think you should go ahead.
He was here today. He's looking at 1 day a week. He can do 8 hours, or he can do 16, or he can do 30 hours, whatever we decide. He has 20 years' experience. His resume is in there, so you can look at that when you get time. Yeah.
I already reviewed it.
Oh, did you? Okay, okay. It will be an interim position that he would show up here once a week, do the 8 hours. If we decide, like I said, to do more, that's fine. He's working up in Galena right now. They have some of the same problems that we're having right now. So they decided to bring him on just for the one day to try him out. It's like a trial. You're basically trying him out to see. And if he does, if we decide we don't need him, we tell him goodbye. Or if we decide we need him longer, he'll take on those additional hours for us. But the good news is it's not permanent unless we decide. And that gives us trustees an opportunity to work with him, as well as our clerk, as well as our zoning. He has a vast background in zoning, water, sewage. He was a city administrator. So he said he will come anytime. He's willing to show up at our meetings that we have. He's willing to sit and talk with each of us individually. He's very good with the sunshine law. This will get us, will buy us some time actually. We don't have to go with him permanently, but if we decide we can hire him permanently, he will take it. But it would also buy Etna some time because things will continue to go on as far as working on the comprehensive plan with the economic developer, also working with the water and sewage board and the things that's going on as far as development in our township. So it would, and we have a 24-hour call. We can call him anytime, 24 hours. And he can, he can help us with our vision here in Etna. So that's an opportunity for us to decide what we want to do. So it's not permanent, but it can be. So it's not to us that puts us, but at least keeps us going,
If I may ask, what are the fees?
The fees are $3,000 a month. That will be 32 hours in a month.
$93.75 an hour. For 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Can I buy?
I mean, when you sent that email last night, there was really no description of it. I didn't know where you were going, interim, consulting, or what. I did a little research on that, on him, and I'm not going to speak to what I found, but I do have some reservations. But also, to think that what can be accomplished is only 1 day a week, or even 2, is severely missing the mark, especially, again, this board approved a full-time administrator. How we think we can get by with just kind of part-time, and as the residents, and very knowledgeable residents, Steve Holloway on the Planning Commission and that, and you were at the Morpsey convention. Now is the time that's going to determine our future, because Intel is ramping it up.
Yep, that's correct, Mark. You're absolutely right.
Can I please finish? So it feels like we can't, like we just want to dip, some of the board want to just dip our toe and let's see if this will work, and let's try to get by at the minimum, and we're going to fall behind. It's going to be a detriment to us. Like I said, I've been in office, I think it's 9 weeks now, and just the issues I've come across are astonishing. Just a week ago, I came across 3 reports that were due today that had a $500 fine per month per report. Now, there's nowhere listed, hey, these are due, these are that. And what don't we know? They're issue after issue. I just pulled out for the roads. Like I said, the OPWC grant was withheld when the board indicated we should do that, apply for that. And we've got the latest road projections for repairs and that listed, I think 2016, and there's no updates, we need someone full-time, especially with Intel coming in, especially with the housing pressure, especially with everything, the development, we're cheating not only ourselves, but the residents in the entire township, the other businesses, if we try to save pennies when we're losing out on dollars. The previous board gave away almost $1 million. And we're here bickering about a full-time administrator, which would cost maybe $100,000, with benefits maybe $140,000. It's ridiculous in my mind. So again, the board approved for a full-time. So why are we talking about 1 day a week? And who can accomplish anything in 1 day to get up to speed, come back next week, okay, deal with this? We need to hit the ground running, and that's what I've tried to do. What was put on to me was what Mr. Carlisle was doing. Mrs. McKee, you wanted what Randy Ford was doing. Mr. Johnson, you wanted what you were doing before. I agreed to do that. Mr. Carlisle was acting as administrator. And I said I could do that for a while until we get one. But there's just been pushback after pushback. And please. So I don't think your proposal would work or would even be appropriate.
So if they were full-time, would they be, Mark?
We need full-time, but then I would have a discussion about the firm.
Okay.
I mean, what, is this board against a full-time administrator now? And on that, I'll venture into the economic development consultant on the next one. I'll fully agree on supporting an economic development consultant. We need that. Again, this is the time that we need the people working for this township, because it's going to be set in stone before we know it, and then there's going to be no use, and it'll be too late. I think we need to hire a full-time administrator. If this board cannot move forward with an individual, we need to hire an interim, and also eventually economic development consultant. But then again, we need to move forward with the comprehensive plan, which I'll discuss. But as I understand, you don't want to interview, this board doesn't want to interview anybody we've received applications for. Is that correct?
There's out of the 3 that are left, I don't see any of those, I don't see those 3.
There's
Yeah. One resigned.
and one, we got one yesterday.
What was that name?
And then another thing I would ask is, I'm actively pushing to fill the administrator, to fill the road crew position, so that are the other board members doing the same? Are you putting it out there? Are you, I don't see anything on your social media, Mrs. McKee. I don't know.
That has nothing to do with it, but I'm, you
No,
know,
but
I worked on, everybody's not social media, but I did work to get this, guy, Scarlett, I met him about, to come in and talk with us and to see what he could do. And he, like I said, that was what I decided that I thought would work for us as a township.
Okay, but my point is that we need to let everybody know that we're seeking this position. The more people that know on social media, that's why we're doing an ad on the OTA, that's why.
And I checked with Morpsey too, and they don't do it. So I did try to reach out to see if they could post it up there.
So are we just at a,
Well,
administrator?
no, I'm kind of confused. I mean, you say we gotta have somebody. Roslyn presents this as a way to get started. You said absolutely not full time, which we don't have anybody that we can go interview. So either we start with something that's better than nothing, is the way I look at it. And we can, and it's a month to month. Say we hire somebody, bring them in, this guy's gone.
Yeah, Exactly.
I don't understand your whole point.
Have you done your due diligence? Did you
I read
research?
Research, I read his stuff here. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, I won't
I'm not
discuss.
saying you want to hire him tonight, is that what you're saying? I'm not saying that. I like to talk to him, but, you know, I don't have any problem with that.
Well, I would propose one of the applicants, and I'm not going to discuss their name here in public.
Do you have somebody in mind, Mark? you think?
Yeah, if you want to discuss Mr. Vance, we can discuss another that has indicated they would do it on an interim basis. Is one that has applied, but we need somebody. And like I said, it's got to be more than, it's got to be full-time. It could be interim, 6 months, year, whatever. But I would have my reservations with the proposed.
Well, what's your reservations?
Do you want me to discuss it?
Well-
Or should it be executive session on hiring? Although they won't be an employee, so I don't know if that would be, he's not here tonight. and
Right.
I
I mean, is it the whole concept you're against?
No, his last employment. Are you aware of his last employment?
I don't know, it was in here. I mean, I
That's
was
what I'm saying.
proposing that we hire tonight.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying that.
I'd feel more comfortable. 'cause
I saw it when I walked in today, and here I got to pull around, look at it through it. I didn't do a lot of research on it, I looked through it today.
Well, I got the email yesterday, and like I said, did my due diligence and researched, and
And I did that.
that was my concern.
Yeah, I did that with a few of the apps too. Because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go and research, figure out, you know, their past employment history, and that's perfect. We're doing the right thing. So I'm glad to hear that, so.
So do you have any reservations about the last employee?
No, I don't. No.
All right, I do.
Okay, that's fine.
So I guess, I don't have to be negative about the whole thing, but you're pushing for one of these 4 people. We're saying, look at this too, but you don't want any part of this, really. You just want that part. I mean,
No,
that's what I'm hearing from you, though.
no, I said I'll look at it. I have my reservations. Like I said, I haven't spoke to the individual.
Okay.
But for what?
Is that what it is? I mean, if you contact them, is that what you want to do, or do you want us to interview them, or do you want us to call them?
I mean, I can contact him, but his information, I didn't know in what respect he was going to be presented as an employee, as a consultant, so if you want, I can speak to him. I would encourage you to speak to him also.
All right.
And then,
I mean, this is something you could go without.
well, like I said, to me, it would have to be more than a day. It'd be 5 days a week. You need something.
So you're not 1 or 2 days not going to, is what you're saying?
I don't think it'll work for the township.
Not even an interim, not even until we find somebody that really wants it.
Well, if the board will not move forward with somebody full-time, 2 days is better than nothing, but
We could get somebody 3 months from now, we could get somebody a year from now, we get somebody next month. Tomorrow, somebody could walk in and if we really like the resume interview, a perfect fit for our township. You just don't know. I mean,
and that's where an interim, a true interim, could be for 6 months, get us there, and then we bring on someone full-time, or they transition into it.
And that's what you said you could do.
So, but this, if you're at $93 a month, an interim would be about $45, $50
an hour, right?
an hour, and that's 93. So if you go just an interim, if your consultant is working 2.5 days, you can have an interim for 5 days for the same cost. That's dedicated to this township. So number one, the cost of it is quite a bit. So why wouldn't we just hire in an interim
Okay.
and do that? Because like I said, I agreed to do this basically take over what Mr. Carlisle was doing until we got an administrator, but we need it. I can't continue myself. Again, I have not worked for 3 months.
Same here. So I understand, Mark.
I mean, I'm pushing out emails at 2 in the morning. I'm all day today, it's, again, not sustainable, and the township is not getting the service that they deserve, because I'm having a hard time keeping up with everything. So, I don't see the individual here, but
What are you talking about, Gary?
he is.
He's right there.
But, I don't know, we need to move forward. I don't know if you want to table it and then talk to him and we can do a special meeting, but it needs to change. Or, Ms. McKee, I mean, I'd be willing to swap full duties with you. You take on the day-to-day running of this
I have a
township.
full-time job.
You, what?
I do have a full-time job. Yeah. That's, Mark, I understand. I said we understand that. I mean,
But if you're not willing to take it on yourself, you can't push it on me and then not give me the resources to deal with it.
I didn't push anything on you.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Mrs. McKee, I've got emails that you wanted to do what Mr. Ford was doing. You wanted me to do what Mr. Carlisle was doing, and Jeff wanted to do what he was doing, the firewood, basically. And I agreed to that. You said you would take cemeteries, parks, and Pataskala Chamber of Commerce. Then that changed to Morpsey. If I would agree right now to take parks and cemetery and anyone gladly, and I could get back to my business tomorrow.
In fact, Morpsey I'd already had, you know that. That was
No,
done
well-
on the night that we all decided to give me Morpsey, so that didn't change. That's nice.
But what I'm saying is, I could handle the cemetery and the parks, get back to my business, and I could devote time to that. If you would agree to handle the day-to-day operations, the legal, the development, it's...
Mark, you agreed to that. You just said it 10 minutes ago. You agreed to take on Carlisle duties. We're agreeing to bring somebody in there. It's almost like you're trying to hold us hostage if we don't take and bring a full-time administrator in right now today. And we're willing to work with you. I'm willing to work with you. That's why I brought that packet in. This person can start tomorrow and take on those duties. He can work full-time. He was just being conservative, saying we'll do 8 hours to start out to see what we need. He can go in and look at and kind of look through what we need and decide, and then if he needs to go to 40 hours, it's not a problem. If he needs to go down to 32 hours, it's not a problem. But it's up to us as a board to decide what we want that person to do. If you think they need to be full-time, that's what you think. So I don't know what your feelings were, Jeff. Is it a full-time for you? I don't know. I thought you said part-time. I'm willing to, like I said, I'm not saying we don't need an administrator, so let's clear the air on that. But I think we need to get to the point where we can figure out how much of that administrator we need to be here. 40 hours a week, 32 hours a week, 2 days a week, don't know yet. That's when you bring this consultant in and let them, which they ran the city, Pickerington, so they know. They could come in and work with us. Now, this is not for public.
Mrs. McKee, did you not vote along with...
Mark, I did, because it was late at night and it was pressure. It was back to that, it was 10 o'clock at night. I didn't second it, Jeff did. So you go back and look at the notes. Because like I said, we need to work through this. And we're back to that again.
Can I finish without interruption, please? The meeting that you voted for full-time administrator was not the last meeting at 10 o'clock, it was the prior.
Okay.
Please, can I, without interruption? again, the description and the ad were full-time. During the campaign, I was there when you talked to other people, full-time, we need an administrator. You're now saying what makes you think it's part-time?
No, I did not say part-time. I'm going to interrupt you.
Mr. McKee, please. I'm not interrupting you, please don't interrupt me, but what has changed that you think now that it's part-time? Because I am dealing with the day-to-day operations, the legal, the developers, the policy, the employees, we need more than I thought we needed. After the board here, we had someone 14 years, 16 years, and I think 16 years, but total of 20 years. I would have thought this was a well-oiled machine coming in, and the only question would be, what color are we going to paint the walls? It's not. There are severe issues that we need to deal with, so I'm concerned that you voted for full-time and then went to part-time, but you won't even indicate why you think it was part-time and why you changed to part-time.
Okay, can we answer now? Good. Okay. Just because you brought up our campaign, which has nothing, I don't think that's irrelevant, is relevant with our board now. But just to let you know, I was on the outside looking in, okay? I'm in the inside now. I see new things. I understand, I'm not saying we don't need an administrator, Mark. I've said that over and over again. I have to understand more and more my duties as a trustee, okay? I understand that we do need an administrator. But there's a lot of things that I need to learn as a board member, and come in and bring that person in. I'm just not going to just take somebody and hire them. We need to make sure that that person is a good fit for us. And that's exactly why I said, I never said I would not hire a part-time administrator. I'm not saying that, I never said that. But that's where I stand right now. We just need to make sure we have the right person that can fit in and can work with us as a board.
Yeah, well, I do recall that meeting where you were arguing against an administrator and instead for an economic development director.
Well,
so that's what I'm saying, please, that there's inconsistency, and again, if you want to see what you want to learn the job and you want to see what's needed, again, I will right now swap with you our full duties so you can see what is required. Again, I wake up to 40, 50 emails of issues. If you want to see, let's do that, and then we can move forward. Or let's get someone to come in, and that's what an interim I would love to just hire an administrator, but it seems like the board is not going to move forward with that. So I would recommend an interim administrator, and we can talk to all the applicants and see if there's others that are interested, but I do know of one. And even with yours, you said that you don't just want to bring somebody in, but you're kind of bringing this person in, and they're not going to be an employee. They're not going to, at least with an interim, maybe they can stay on. They're going to learn the system, and maybe we'll be happy with them and be a full-time administrator. I think that's the way to go if the board's hesitant about the full-time administrator. And I honestly don't know if we're going to get any more applicants, just the way this board is so indecisive and changes from meeting to meeting after a vote's taken. And I do recall Ms. McKee, that a while ago you sent ground rules for the board, and one of them was maintaining support for board votes and decisions and then moving on. This board can't even maintain their own votes, and that's my concern. So is this board open to finding an interim administrator, talking to Mr. Vance, talking to anybody else, say within the next week, and trying to determine that? I mean, honestly, you two can outvote me, so I could just be talking for nothing, and if you want to move forward with Mr. Vance, you guys move forward, but I'm telling you from what I see and what I've learned, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days is not enough. You need 5 days, and if he's working for other jurisdictions, can he do that? And then again, you got the cost. Because we could get an interim for about 50 bucks an hour. It's about 90, 100,000 a year. Why wouldn't we do that? Get someone full-time instead of paying double that. It just doesn't make business sense to me. So again, I'm open if Mrs. McKee, you want to swap full duties, or if we want to move forward with an interim administrator. At least interview.
Well, you mentioned economic development. I didn't change my mind about that. They would still be that person that would work with the administrator, so that's not changed. It's just that if we couldn't find a administrator quick enough that could fill in and that economic development, which we talked to Jim Leonard, could start doing his stuff right away. So that would be continued. And then in the meantime, we could still, and then he's a part of that, making sure that we stay afloat and working on the comprehensive plan at the same time, because he worked on the original plan, so we're familiar with that, with him. So that would be the piece that would continue. But then in the meantime, if we went with an administrator as an interim, which I don't think that's a problem, Mark, at all. I think that's brilliant to do an interim. But that way we have that opportunity to get to know them, they'll get to know us, and we can make that decision if we want to keep them. So I think that's the way to go.
So would this board be open to, and here again, we're sending mixed messages, but at least we can move forward, putting out a request for an interim administrator, same description, same everything, just interim, contract to be negotiated. I mean, I don't think anybody will do it for less than 6 months, but 6 months to a year. And receive applications within, what, the next week?
So let me ask you this, so are we going to do a month to month with that interim? Where we could decide that we don't want them to stick around, or we decide what, I mean, you know what I mean? As far as keeping them month to month, instead of saying, okay, we're going to hire you for 6 months, or we're going to hire you for a year. But if we do the month to month, that gives us an opportunity to say, okay, they're somebody that we can work with, somebody that is doing their job, and, you know, I can, you know, look at it that way, or that would still sit in the, as far as a interim, but we would have to set up I think we should look at the description of the position, maybe go back and look at that, maybe make some changes on that, I don't know.
Well, as far as the month to month, I don't think you're going to get anybody that's going to come in here month to month besides a consultant. And I don't think we should look for a consultant. We want to look for someone that's an interim, and then, I mean, it'd be great if they morphed into the full time, because we've already invested in them learning. Everybody I've talked to, they prefer a year, but 6 months seems to be the minimum. Anything less than that, I don't think you're going to get good candidates. You're going to maybe get people that are desperate for some work or to get in there. So that's what I would say. The month to month, you're not going to get the quality candidate. I don't think anybody worth their salt is going to want at least a longer contract, because you're taking them away from other opportunities. And we got to remember, with Intel going on, with anything, resources are being taken up. People are looking for administrators, looking for planners, looking for that. So I think it's a mistake if you're looking to go for a month to month. And as far as changing the description, I don't think it's really needed, because we went through that, and it is also as the board directs, so we can change it on the fly.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to take more time, more valuable time to do that. I would like, again, are we even open, or I'm afraid to put a motion to it, but an interim, put it out there, see who is interested, and maybe again, just as they come in, interview them, but at least get a commitment, one that we'll stick with, to interview them or talk to them, either together or separately. Again, I did that with the fiscal officer, to move this thing forward, because again, unless you want to agree to switch duties.
You keep using it like as a pawn. So that's.
No,
But we got, Mark, we either, like I told you, I'm not against having an administrator come in here. We need one, you're right. But my point that I'm making, we can bring in an interim. That's perfect. Let's do it 6 months. Let's, or month to month. That way we can figure out, okay, remember,
Let's just approach this a different way, if you don't mind.
of course, you're a board member just like me and Mark. Yes, of course.
Mark, what are the pressing points? Name 5 things right now that you need an administrator for, exactly, very detailed, that you could do, very detailed. Like we need somebody to help with employee reviews.
do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I'm trying to give examples.
Oh, I don't need examples. I
Okay.
deal with it daily.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down, so go ahead.
Day-to-day operations of knowing what reports are due, what compliance issues we have, again, I was notified last week of reports that were due today that had a $1,500 a month penalty. If we didn't comply, I had to get into the system, number one, because the past trustee did not leave that information. Number two, I had to find that information and then get it sent out, so I did that. But it's report after we've got the health insurance renewal, we've got the
That's a good one. Write it down.
yeah, I can send you a
All right.
2-3 page list, Jeff.
Go ahead.
It's the insurance, that we're still dealing with the risk assessment. We're still dealing with the SWPPP. We missed the MS4 deadline for their report because it was ignored by the previous trustee. And so trying to deal with, there are ongoing, we've got roads. The last, here, just got this, the roads of the schedule for road improvements. The last road improvement schedule, 2016, which ended in their projection 2022. Well, we're not doing Etna properly, or are we, because of the grant that was not submitted. And this should have been updated, so we need to update that. We need to, Jeff, it goes on and on. Like I said, I am literally from morning to night dealing with this, responding to people, and I'm still meeting with developers. I had a developer the other day to try to push this forward, dealing with the water and sewer district, dealing with the TIF possible renegotiation, dealing with the 629 grant reimbursement. I understand that Fred Vogel spoke to you about that. That's what I've been handling with Albers, and it's on and on and on. And like I said, I did not support Mr. Carlisle. I had a lot of issues, but I do give him credit that he put the hours in. Everybody says that. And you can't just say it's one thing, it'll only come up once a year. You're missing the point that to be able to do this and grow as a township, we need someone full-time doing it. So I can show you the list. I mean, you see a lot of the emails too, because Laura copies you, but a lot of them you don't, because I'm not copying everybody, because it just clutters up the emails. But it's a lot, Jeff, and I don't know if you are aware of a lot of stuff, because again, Mr. Carlisle did it. He ran the township. And it's a lot, again, on my plate. I don't mind putting that work in. I did it for 2 years as a resident. But again, we're talking about dollars where gave away millions, and we're gonna lose out tens of millions with this development. And if we don't negotiate these JEDs, there's a lot going on. And I'm trying my best, and I'm sacrificing a lot, but we need the support, and we need to set this up right for the next board. I'll gladly be here multiple terms if the residents want, but if I'm not, we need to set it up for the next people coming in, so they don't go through what I did coming in. And that's why we need a full-time administrator. And again, if you want a daily log of what I'm doing, I'll send it to you.
No, I just wanted to know five things that can be taken care of by a minister
And setting up policies and just even simple stuff of, and maybe it's not simple, of culvert replacement of driveways. I would have thought we would have had a policy. We don't. They would do them for some people, they wouldn't do them for others. Why don't we have a policy? We don't have policies for anything, or if we do have policies, they're not followed. And that's putting that into place. And even if you think that once we get it running smoothly, we don't need full-time, then fine. At the end of their contract, we don't need them. But right now, we need somebody full-time. I talked to somebody that was an administrator here that said it'll probably take 2 years to kind of dig ourselves out. I think 1, and that's with an administrator.
And how soon can they start? How
They
soon
already
would
have
you-
enough.
No, I'm saying how soon, if we hire somebody as an interim, how soon could they start working at the township for us?
Well, it depends.
Why don't we just hire John back? Solve our problem.
Jeff,
I'm just saying, you know,
Jeff,
it's,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but during our first meeting, you did suggest that John Carlisle would be a great administrator, and honestly, after showing you where we are and the issues we have, he should not have been running anything. There are so many issues, so again, no policies, and it's really concerning that you would think he would be a good administrator. We need to change from the past. Again, the board had 14, 16, and 20 years experience. This should be running smoothly, and it's not, and I don't know why you don't see that. You don't want to change. You want John Carlisle to be our administrator?
I didn't say that. I said, why would you, after everything you're saying? That's what I'm saying.
Because
I mean, you want somebody like him, is what you're saying, right?
No.
Oh, no.
This is the mess he left us. And honestly, you don't see the mess. I bring issue after issue to this board and to the trustees and email. We had a records request on an email, and I'm told, well, I don't have access to Mr. Carlisle's email. So how have we been fulfilling those records requests? Of how, these are the things that, I'm not even talking about changing the paint color, I'm talking about complying with law, complying with ORC. And honestly, Jeff, I'm disappointed that you don't see that it was a mess. It was, and again, our first meeting, you said John Carlisle would be a great administrator, and my jaw about dropped. The residents would come here with pitchforks and torches. I'd be among them.
Well, obviously the voters didn't like him as our administrator, so I guess not. My point is that you said he did all that, and so you want somebody that did what he did. My thing is, and I'll just say this, Mark, I get so much more, I spend half my day reading emails from you, and township emails and stuff. In fact, it's getting in my way of my normal job after reading so many emails. I've tried to get involved with things, you take it over. So I just quit, to tell you the truth. I quit doing stuff because every time I try to do something, you took it over. That's where I'm at. So I helped you out by
saying, okay, we put a description out there for administrator, we'll interview us, we'll see what we get back, or an advertisement in the paper. I was hoping we got some really good candidates. I did not see any good candidates. Okay? I like them, came up with this, a part-time guy or consultant guy. Normally I'm against consultant type people, but to help you out now, I think this is a possible solution, so I'm looking at this. Okay? I don't care if it's these people, I don't care if it's somebody else, as long as they're good at what they do.
Well, I would,
I'm trying to help you out, but you want full-time right now, and I don't think we have full-time, we don't have a qualified candidate for that. I'm done.
okay, regarding helping out, like, again, I was given development, roads, all that. I've been dealing with the 629, Fred Vogel with the Commerce Department called in. He wanted to meet with all the trustees. He was directed to you. Now, I've already been working with Albers and Albers with the 629 reimbursement, and instead of sending them to me, that I'm the one doing it, I won't even get into your other conversation with them, but why would you try to do that when that was given to me? If you want to do it, if you want to deal with all development, again, as I indicated to her, if you want to swap duties and I'll take the fire board, that's fine. And you deal with day-to-day operations, but honestly, with your,
What do you want to get rid of, Mark, besides everything? Give me something.
we need to change everything.
Like what? Tell me what you want to change.
The policies, the how we do things,
I'm
records
talking about
requests.
what responsibilities are.
We need an administrator
All right.
to do.
Okay, well, let's
to
vote
do
for
what
it,
we
let's
need.
do that. Let's,
Again, so how are we gonna do, are we gonna put out that we're gonna seek an interim and we're gonna discuss, when are we gonna interview them or vote? Do we need to do it together or we can do it separate? And
when you say separate, meaning interview.
just talk to them.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's a fair way to
Maybe
do
we
it.
should talk to each one of them separately.
Right.
And then we think we can agree on, how are we gonna decide who we agree on?
Then we have a meeting.
And we have a meeting to decide.
I'd say we should
That's
interview.
fair.
Okay. I think that's fine.
Mhm.
So we'll put it out there, same description, interim, minimum 6 months.
Yeah. Are you okay with the 6 months?
I'm fine.
Or-
I mean, I don't think you're gonna get anybody.
to apply, so I got one to choose from. I really, we're in good shape with what we had, so.
Okay, so I make a motion to advertise for an interim administrator with the same job descriptions as the full-time administrator. Minimum contract 6 months, other terms to be negotiated. We'll interview as they come in. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. McKee seconds. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes,
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
thank you. Now we'll move on to economic development consultant. I just want to say again, I'm up for doing that in conjunction with the administrator. I don't know if you two have any other discussion on that. I think we probably should get other bids or other, talk to other people.
They get permanent, how much would the economic development person take off a year load?
Well, I don't know if, until we deal with the comprehensive plan, I don't know the economic development, what is his goals. So I think that the comprehensive plan is kind of forward first. But the administrator could still deal with the developers and,
Yeah.
You know, well, could we?
and the economic, in my mind, is more anything the administrator can't do or more specialized, but again, we use Licking County, Pataskala uses Montrose at 48,000. I know Mr. Leonard put a bid in at 86,000. I thought that was a little high.
So they do the Licking County, Pataskala, and the Montrose group, so they do both. Pataskala.
Pataskala just re-entered Licking County. So I would maybe encourage more, we could seek more people, more bids on that, and then I can tie that in with the comprehensive plan. But talking about Pataskala, or is there any more discussion on the economic development?
Yeah. Okay. I know the Licking is like 15,000 a year. I'm not sure what the Montrose group is charging them.
48,000.
48,000. Okay. Well, with that, Jim Leonard that came and brought us his packet that we spoke to, he is actually he will be working with us on our comprehensive plan. So some of that will overlap. So that's something we may want to discuss with him if we decide to go that route to see if we're going to save some kind of money there, because we put a bid in for the comprehensive plan as well. So that's maybe something we can discuss.
But he wasn't selected. So
Well, I'm saying
I'm
saying if we decide to go that route, because that's some way we could see what he's going to charge us for that.
Correct. I don't know if you want me to skip to the comprehensive plan, or is there any other discussion on economic development consultant?
Let's get down.
Well, let's go to the comprehensive plan. I've been really hoping that we could have an administrator in place before we kind of move forward with the comprehensive plan, because everybody I've talked to, the other townships, Columbiana, down towards Cincinnati, that they update every 5 years, say that it's really imperative that you have an administrator involved in the process that can be a conduit or kind of a buffer between the trustees and the development committee in making sure that what reaches the trustee's desk is something that we're going to approve. You don't want them just doing it on their own and coming up with something, plopping on your desk and saying, okay, vote on it. No, you just wasted all that time. So you should kind of guide them or kind of give yes, no's through the way. And as we know, with the board of 3, we can't have discussions amongst ourselves, the 2 of us, because that's a meeting, outside of meeting. So an administrator facilitates that. And again, everybody I've talked to that's gone through the process and the one that does it every 5 years said it's imperative. So I was really hoping we could have an administrator to help with that and to determine which way we're going to move on the comprehensive plan. And on that, I know we've gotten a bid from Mr. Leonard. However, in talking to all these firms and all these entities, we really need to determine what we want from that comprehensive plan, what we want from that consultant. We can't just say, give us something, because you don't know what they're going to give you in that. So I think we really need to determine, and I hope quickly, and we can do it this month, that come up with exactly what we expect. Is it just a general review with a little tweaking? Is it a redo of really encompassing everything, which I'm leaning more to, because I think we need to take into account the roads, the sewers, where things need to be. You know, Mink went up to Intel, and one company, I'm waiting on a proposal for them. They would come in for 3 to 4 hours as a work session. It's, I believe it's Planning Next, and they've done Grove City, they've done quite a bit. I can give you guys a little more information on that. They can do a workshop 3 to 4 hours, talk to us, determine what exactly we want, what they can provide, and then we can come up with a request for proposal, which we can either do direct hire, just pick them or anybody, even Mr. Leonard, or do a request for proposal, but it would be a detailed request of exactly what we're looking for, the kind of engagement, and then put it out, and they could also bid. I think that would be the way to move forward, to have that workshop, because if we just hire someone and just let them go, is that what this board really is going to support at the end? And again, hopefully we can have an administrator, interim or not, be part of that, to be that conduit, work with them, and be able to say, hey, yeah, no, the trustees really aren't going to approve that. And so that's what I would recommend on that. And once I get that in, I'm hoping within the next day or two, I can forward it to the board for discussion at the next meeting, either special or regular. I would say special to get it moving. So is there any questions on that?
So you're saying you really don't want a trustee being part of the comprehensive plan development?
Well, I would prefer an administrator, and then they can, again, they can be a conduit to each trustee. So they could go to each trustee and say, hey, this is kind of where we're going, so each can be peripherally involved. But if one trustee, the way the board is fractured right now, I'm afraid that if one person is involved, be it me, it's when it comes to the end, it might not work. So again, the administrator, I think, could facilitate in that.
Our zoning guy.
Well, he would definitely be part of it. But I really think an administrator.
And he could bring stuff to us as a report, you know, as
Well,
progress.
The zoning is very busy right now. There, and in April it really picks up. We've moved one employee, the hybrid Stephen, in there, and Mr. Singleton has indicated that he's going to need him full-time in April. So, and that's with him doing his full-time stuff, so he's not going to have time to deal with, I don't think, fully the comprehensive plan. He'll be involved, but now you're asking him to take more time away from his duties. I mean, just one of the concerns of the community is just violations and complaints. Well, he's been so busy the last years that they've dropped by half because he hasn't been able to get to them. So I'm afraid if you want to try to put more on his plate, again, it's going to suffer. And once the, was it Royals with the American Homes for Rent goes in there, and the other ones, and the zoning's busy. I mean, how do you think that comprehensive plan should move forward if, I don't think we should just hire someone without a kind of detailed request and just set them free and get together with some residents and possibly bring us something that it's taken, Jim Leonard's talking about a year and a lot of money. I would like to see that quicker. But what if they go through it all and plop it on podiums here and we're like, no, we're going to take another year? And now Intel's already manufacturing chips, and now
I would think that we would have updates on what's being looked at, so we would accept any part of that, not just wait a while and have a plan written. Say, here it is, well, here, like you're saying. I mean, I would think there would be updates coming in on it, what we're doing, things we're looking at. I mean, I don't know what would.
But who's going to update the planner? I mean, that's more time, that's more expense. But again, everybody I've talked to, I don't think we should recreate the wheel for things. Everybody that I've talked to that has had success in their comprehensive plan has an administrator that functions as that kind of conduit, because they're attending at all those meetings. They're attending, so they're very knowledgeable, and then they can come back and report to us. And if we have any concerns about minor stuff, but if you're asking like Mr. Leonard to do it, well, his fee's going to go up if he's taking time to talk to each of them.
Well, I thought was that I would go volunteer to be on that.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought he was. That's what I thought.
Well,
And then I can bring updates to you guys.
my concern with that, again, not personal. Well, no, but you were part of the previous board that ignored the comprehensive plan, and even in my interview for the water board and the zoning commission, you disregarded the comprehensive plan. You're like, it's just guidance and we don't have to follow it. And honestly, that is not someone that should be in charge or guiding our new comprehensive plan someone that dismissed the last one. So again, nothing personal, but I don't think we should do that.
Right. I would be a little more selective in your words of what I say, Mark, in the future. You put out fact, that's not the true fact.
You did say that.
Yes. I did not say that whole thing. I said it's a guide, it's not zoning law.
Well, again, and you take into
So it's,
totality, the last board's decisions, even FedEx with Scanell, but you were part of the board that ignored the comprehensive plan, and that we don't need
again,
that.
you're saying, you're putting words, that is your opinion. So, that's fact. We're done discussion, let's move on, please.
But I will forward that information. Now, the Refugee Road, I believe Laura printed out this project, met with Pataskala regarding the Refugee Road improvement between Mink and Etna Parkway. We brought this up before. They have an intergovernmental agreement right now between Pataskala, the county commissioners, and the TID for the improvement. They're asking for our involvement in this. It's a total package of, I believe it was 10 or 11 million after contributions from their developers. It comes down to about 7 million that's left. They are looking at us to split that 50-50, but overall, if you include what they're front loading and their developer, it's about a 1/3 to 2/3. I've talked to Jeff Breeze with TPA, and I actually heard that we had questions on a variance on the building in the northeast corner of our corporate park, that tenant there is requesting those improvements also. So Ashley's requesting it, and they're requesting it through the JEDZ. The funds would be generated to pay that loan amount. It's approximately, I think it was $235,000 a year on our part, and I'm going to forward to our fiscal officer for her review what the developer provided for their projections of the funds from those developments, just to make sure that that is kind of a true and accurate representation. And I believe it's necessary to move forward with it. Pataskala is asking for a memorandum of understanding, and this is a draft. It just basically lays out the intent of the parties. This is actually non-binding. However, it's a good faith effort, because if we can't even agree on a memorandum of understanding, we're not going to move forward. This is something that I heard that was in the works prior, but was put on hold due to the election. Even so, I do think it is needed to serve our development, but also Pataskala's. So I'm not asking for any kind of approval of this now, but this is just for your review, discussion, and I would like to kind of move forward in getting this finalized. I sent this to our county prosecutor for opinion. I haven't heard back yet, but I would like to move forward with this soon, and then that would lead to IGA intergovernmental agreement, where those the final details would be determined. So, do you guys have any questions or concerns about this?
I have a lot of concern.
Sat in on the meeting, so I kind of had already knew some of this information.
I have a lot of concerns about that.
They are.
Well, nobody has shown me how we go half on that, right?
It's actually 1/3. It's half of the remaining balance.
It's 3.5 million, right?
Out of 11.
So they want us to pay $3.5 million to get a section between Mink and Refugee, or not Mink and I'm sorry, of Refugee from Mink to Etna Parkway.
Correct, with the intersections and the widening.
Right. So, trucks are gonna come down, probably go through there. What's their GPS gonna tell them to go? It's not gonna tell them to go down to Etna Parkway and come down to 40 and whatever. It's gonna tell them to go all the way over to 310.
So
So,
Pataskala's ready to enforce that, they can enforce that, and they're checking into, they believe, because we've got a shared, technically the north side of Refugee is Pataskala's, the south is ours. However, they believe, and again, they're gonna verify, that they can post signs on both directions, because the east is on our side going towards 310, they're coming out. But they believe that they can enforce both, and they can ticket both. So it would be enforcement, plus signage.
ticket them at 310?
For 310 and going down Refugee is their intent, and they want to make sure that it can be on both sides, but we've got that maintenance agreement, which maybe we can clarify that they do have enforcement. That could be worked out, but still you might get straight trucks going down, but
We just had a big discussion about the school, and the lights and all the traffic problems there. We're on truck center now.
well, it's supposed to be going down at the Parkway.
That would make trucks go down there too. I mean, you can save your trucks, but
Well,
they had to enforce all that.
enforcement, $1,000 fines rack up quick, you can, again, it's enforcement. So, but as far as being paid, I don't know if you've been forwarded the projections. Might want to wait until Julie reviews them. And, but I do, looking over them, I do believe it will pay for it. And again, I'd be more hesitant if that other developer didn't need it, because we're south of Refugee, so our stuff can go in that Parkway, but the way that land is, they need access on Refugee. So that's why they're requesting it. And they, along with Ashley there, with the Red Rock and I think the Goo and Pataskala, would pay for that. They did initially ask that any future development in the corporate parkway would go to reduce the amount owed on this. But I disagreed with that and was concerned because we also need to think about from Etna Parkway to 310. That needs improvement. 310 and Refugee, that intersection, although that's the state, that needs to be improved. So we can't devote all our resources just for that section. We've got to look elsewhere. So I disagree with that, and they removed it from the MOU.
Well, they keep the trucks off of it. That's one thing, you know.
Well, but even passengers, that's not a well-built road.
Right.
What TID, Bill Lozier said, that's failing, that intersection is going to be failing. I mean, 310 and 40 is set to fail in 10 years. There's a lot that we've got to deal with, and that's another thing the administrators get their heads around. We've got to figure out where the money's coming from and where it's going. We've got ever shrinking areas where it can come from. So once we lock in JEDS, that money's there. Once we lock in, but I think this is prudent.
Are you talking, so the money you're talking about is going to pay for this, is it coming out of the JED fund itself, or is it coming out of the JED board's fund?
It's coming out of the JED for the BIA account.
Okay,
which is typically 20%. I forget.
I think it's a lot lower than that.
There's one that's 10, 20, and there's one 30. FedEx is 30% going into BIA, which gets back to the developer recoup funds.
Yeah, but we're not going to use that on that road, right? It'd be the people that are involved that would use their JED on that, correct?
Which is that new development.
So you're saying Ashley, so okay, we can use Ashley's.
And that new one. Originally, I was told that there was somebody that was coming in on the northeast corner that Mr. Carlisle had that was going to extract that 3.5 million from. He left. Nothing. Well, we don't know. That information left. So there's a new client there. I believe they were going to be in contract on it. Talking with zoning, there was a variance that either has been applied for or will be regarding the height of the buildings there for that property. So it looks like that's moving forward. I've got to talk to Jen Priest.
Warehouse there.
Two. I believe it's two,
2 warehouses there?
because that's a corporate park. Yeah, it's already zoned for.
Right. And how much land would that leave going west?
Well, there's a spot in between Ashley and that, and then there's other land out west. But I haven't done a full review of everything. I've been here 9 weeks, so I'm
I don't
still.
think the money that's going, I really don't think there's enough money that would come out of that to pay off that.
Well, if there's not, I would agree no, but the calculations that I reviewed, it looked like it did. So, and Julie can verify. And what I'm saying is, I wanted to bring this to you. We'll have more information of the calculations, and my hope is you'll have those. It'll be another one of my emails with information, and review it, then we'll come back and vote on the MOU. Either we move forward or we don't, because they're being delayed right now, so. There's alternates that they can do, but it's not, it won't fit what's really needed, and then are we gonna redo it again? And this section is part of their maintenance agreement area, so they wanna widen it to three lane, they wanna improve the intersections, roundabouts there. They're maintaining it. We're not maintaining that extra road right there. So,
That was another question.
I think it's a benefit to us, our developers want it. And if it wasn't the case, if they didn't want it or say they needed it, I'd be a little more hesitant.
But the things must have changed much since I talked to them last time, which wasn't too long ago. But I wanted to show numbers where we got that money back and paid for it, and they said, oh, we can't. There's no way we can do that. So maybe something's changed, I don't know.
Well,
That's what I was told.
as I was told, the previous trustee was on the board for it. It's one of the things that I was shocked that, I was told that it was pulled because of the election, how it would look, but honestly, as a resident and someone running, I would not have been opposed to this because I think it's needed. So, but I'll get you the more information and after Julie reviews it, so she can. All right, so that, we're still in old business. Road crew position, maybe we can deal with that. Well, we can deal with now. We've got probably about 10 applicants in there. We're replacing, we agreed to replace Brandon, but again, we had that resignation that we can deal with. I had that new business. So I'd like to at least get 2 new hires. If we get 2 experience, I think we can deal with a crew of 4 with it, and maybe like a less experienced guy, because it would really help Alex to be able to send 2 and 2, and then he kind of takes, supervises it and deals with that stuff. So is there, I guess once we determine, Bubba is going to talk to, or was supposed to talk to, did you talk to those 2 or 3? Did you get in touch with them?
Supposed to be back in the meeting.
Okay, so once
we have both of those applications.
about 10. So right now in the road crew we have Bubba, Don Coakley, and Ethan Lorenz.
We've had some good applications there.
Oh, there were, and some they have their applicator license for the spraying for the EPA. We lost that in Brandon. So I'm excited, but like I said, I'll be pushing for 2, so I'll bring that. Once we have that, we can have a special meeting and deal with that.
How many people do you think we look to interview then? I don't think there's any reason to interview all 10 of them.
No.
And I'm fine picking a number and saying this is how many we're going to interview, and
You've
talked to most of them, haven't you?
Do you want to talk to them too, or I've left it to Bubba and I've talked to them too? Does this board want to interview them also?
I mean, you guys,
What do you mean for hiring?
For hiring? I'm comfortable with, Bubba is the one dealing with it, and I've also reviewed the qualifications, and our top picks are the same. So, I mean, if the board wants to interview them
You think you have
also.
2 top picks, or you have like 4 top picks or 3 top picks.
There's 4 we're considering.
I've got 4 right now, but I mean,
That are fully qualified that you can, yeah, I would be interested in talking to people that are fully qualified, are good picks, and you said I could work with those 4. I'm fine with that, if that's who you have.
But you want to interview them also.
I think we should interview them tonight. We usually all trustees sit down and interview them real quick. So at least we know what we're voting for.
Okay.
To hire them, I mean, that's the way
Okay.
I'm more comfortable with it. And, but, like those can take 15 minutes, that's fine, or whatever we
Okay.
make time for. But I don't think we need to interview 15 people or whatever.
Okay, so we'll talk to them, we'll set that up with the board.
Yeah, please.
All right, so we already did comprehensive plan, I'll get you that. New business, resolution 2203, well, I'll just say, I'll move to approve resolution 2203-0101 to amend the 2022 appropriations. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. McKee seconds. Discussion? Julie, do you want to kind of mention why we're doing this, or?
Well, after reviewing the appropriations from the prior fiscal officer, I realized that there were 2 629 programs that weren't included in his appropriations budget. So those have been included, and the new estimated resources for 2022 will be 11.6 million.
And that's the reason we need to, because we need to send this to the county budget committee and update that. Is there any other discussion or questions?
I want people to know that just because it's $2 million, right, that it's not money that we as a township can spend. It just, since we were part of the 629 thing, the money that comes to us, we pay it back to the developer. So it just don't flow through. It doesn't.
95%.
Yeah, it's not, we don't have that money to spend, it just goes back out. Because some people don't understand that, but I want to let you guys know.
It's basically the developer loans us the money to build their road, we pay it back, and then we get the grant money, and then we pay back the developer. So the developer's getting the money. Yeah, and we get a 5% cut, I think it was.
For land or something like that.
Yeah, so, and that was part of the reports I'm doing, and we still, that's what I'm working on. We need to get the roads dedicated, a petition done, and some punch list items taken care of to be able to fulfill that grant, which I think we have to do by May. So is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
All right. Then, Mr. Johnson, you want to discuss the JEDZ and JEDD boards? You said you wanted to add that on the agenda.
Yes.
Or do you want to discuss that in executive session? Because I had it for both. I was gonna, because I did have stuff to talk about in executive session. I didn't know if you had.
Yeah, you know how you guys want to proceed with that, that's fine.
Okay, we'll do that then. 629 grants reporting and reimbursement. I kind of touched on that a little bit. That was with Frank Vogel. I know, like I said, I know Laura and Mr. Singleton directed that to you. But I've been in discussion with John Albers, the attorney for the JEDS, who is also dealing with the 629 grants for that information, getting the petition signed by a certain amount of residents to get those roads dedicated and be able to get those grant funds to us, and then pay off that loan to the developer contractors. So I will let you know that's where that is. And again, I just completed yesterday the required annual reports for the 3 629 grants we have: Coles, Amazon, and Ashley. Is there any questions? No? We'll move on. Trustee assigned duties, I think we talked about that earlier, that if we were going to move forward, I was going to ask to swap, but we'll deal with the interim. But I would like to say that if we don't move forward with the interim, that I would look to do that. Interim administrator, we already dealt with. Health insurance plan renewal, I'm talking to Frank Harmon right now regarding our renewal. Typical renewals were at 12%, ours were 7%. There are possible savings if we up the deductible, although it's fully funded. that there could be a potential savings of, it's a potential exposure of around 22,000, but we have a potential savings of like 21,000. So if we don't have everybody using that full amount, we could have about 10,000. Frank had indicated figure about 50%.
I'm guessing, right?
I'm guessing from his experience and his other clients. So I think at worst, well, I think had those numbers flipped, at worst, it would cost us 21,000, but we could save 22,000 possibly. So the benefit would be at least 1,000 if it was worst case scenario, or we can even save more. That's what keeping the benefits the same. He's going to get me a little bit more information. I think our renewal is in May. So I have a meeting with him here Thursday to go over some more information, so I can get that to the board and we can make a decision on how we want to move forward with that renewal. So that's it. Employee evaluations and that we can do after the executive session. Employee resignation too. I wanted to, Mr. Lorenz spoke of this. I had accepted from Mr. Lorenz with Don Copley, his immediate supervisor, on Thursday, his resignation effective 3 p.m. on February 24th. That was after I discussed the disciplinary action. I've spoken to our attorney regarding this, and he does recommend that we do not rescind this resignation, that it was accepted and also furthered by turning in the gate remote and his key fob and that. So that's what I wanted to just alert the board to this. Are there any questions? And on that? We could discuss, I mean, I don't know if it would be appropriate to discuss in executive session because technically with that resignation, he's no longer in employment. He's not being dismissed. He's not just like, that's passed of a public employee or official, so it's already passed. So I'm not sure if we can legally discuss it in executive session, or if it would be prudent to discuss it in here without legal counsel. As again, in conferring with legal counsel, they have recommended not rescinding the resignation that was provided, accepted, and moved on.
Do we need to make a motion or accept this resignation?
I don't believe we do. On legal counsel's advice, I said no, that it was accepted by the supervisor and also his immediate supervisor, Don Copley. And again, it was in furtherance of that turning in, there was actually action to move forward on that, turning in the key fob and that you can't rescind it after that fact. So if you want to speak to legal counsel, or again, I don't think it would be appropriate in executive session to discuss, because he technically, if the resignation stands, he's not an employee or official.
So you know where all went on, correct? Do you have any questions or anything? So I was standing here when it happened.
Oh.
Well, not when it happened, but when it
Right, right.
So you know,
Right.
as long as you're aware of the whole thing.
So the attorney spoke, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So move on to, so we're still going to do that. Regarding the employee handbook policy, personnel policies and procedures manual, it was last updated in 2010 with moving forward with the serve the union negotiations. Mr. Albrecht, our attorney, indicated that now would probably be a good time to update that, just in conjunction with the union and newer policies. So I would like to see if the board would like to authorize him to update that. I tried to get a estimate, he said about $7,500-ish would be the cost to update.
On top of the 20,000 we've already approved.
Correct, that could be part of that, and then we just extend that
Subtract
agreement.
it out.
But this would be, I mean, I'll just say, I'll make a motion to authorize Ben Albrecht, part of, I forget his firm's name, to work on updating the employee handbook, personal policies and procedures manual, last updated 1/4/2010, in conjunction with the union negotiations, and that since Mrs. McKee is working with the union stuff, that you would have that be part of it. Is there a second?
And that's for the handbook. Oh, okay. Because we did discuss that handbook. Yeah, I would second.
Mr. McKee seconds. Any discussion?
So we're going to pay $7,000 an hour update of our handbook, correct?
Well, that's an estimate. I don't know if it'll go up to that.
And what are we getting for that as far as an update? Is he going to update all of our procedures per ORC? Are we going to input into that? What we'd like to see, or what's the?
What we could do is have Mrs. McKee determine that with him, because I don't think we can say, do this, do that, because we don't know what.
That's what they have.
What's it, so what I think he'll do, and he said, is he'll review it, suggest changes of what should be included, what, and then if we think we need, if there's some issue that we deal with specifically, but I think that would be kind of through Mrs. McKee.
You go to you if anything, you need questions on or answers, you bring
us
us.
forward.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then if you have it,
Yes.
it's the final copy, and then we vote on it, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I
And
know.
and I
I'm fine with
think,
that.
and it would make sense to have Mrs.
Yep.
McKee do it, because she's dealing that.
Yeah,
With the union.
Exactly. So it makes sense that they all just stay together.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Any other discussion? So we'll just add that to the contract. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
All right. Go on that. Announcements and trustee comments. Mr. Johnson, do you have any?
Yep.
Mrs. McKee, do you have any?
No, I don't.
The only thing I was going to ask was about Mink. Let's get that. Fiscal officer report. Do you have a report, or are we waiting to do
I
it
do.
quarterly on the next?
I do for tonight.
Okay.
The first month I've been here. I provided you with fund summaries as of 1/31. The revenues started at 3.8 million and ended at 3.6 million with just 128,000 in expenditures. That was a little low. Some things were not paid in January with the departure of the former fiscal officer. I just wanted to update too that in my first month, I reviewed the prior 4 years of receipts and payments, and amended the appropriation budget. And then after reviewing those 4 years, I developed the 5-year forecast going forward based on the prior year changes. I plan to continue to monitor the budget and forecast, and will bring further recommendations. I'm also working with the Office of Budget Management on reporting of the coronavirus relief funds in the West Licking Fire Department. I'm also working with the auditor on a single-year audit for 2021 due to the expenditure of federal funds over $750,000.
All right. And I want to thank you for all your hard work and trying to get up to speed. And I know, like I said, I know Vanessa and Camp's also been great help with that consulting.
How's that going? Is it about point right now?
Sure.
All right.
Until tomorrow when things
No, I think she's walked through a lot. I mean, we actually had a termination notice for our gas bill. It was going to be turned off
at the garage.
at the garage
Yes.
because it wasn't paid. It was paid late. It's I'm very confident in our new fiscal officer. I think we're going to be successful, but she's still digging out from what was before. So I applaud her for work and effort. And like I said, I think I'm glad this board decided to give her the help on that consultant because she would have been digging. She would have been where she is now. Because she literally just got into the whole process the other day.
I did.
So.
Yeah. So there are things that are late. There's the retirement contributions for January that have not been made. There was a $500 fine from the IRS for 7 payrolls in 2021 that were not filed, the federal withholdings. That was a $500 fine. There was interest and credit card fees for the credit card. So I'm just digging out.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you. Then do you want the motion to, we can move on to motion to pay bills and approve purchase orders?
Yes, please.
All right, I would make a motion to approve resolution number 22-03-01-02 to approve purchase orders. Is there a second? Ms. McKee seconds. Discussion? Any questions on these or?
There are some blanket purchase orders in there for upcoming things that are like the insurance, the liability insurance and things like that. Some of them look a little larger than just paying a bill because I've put a blanket in there in order to pay them freely as they come up.
Now the Albers fees, a lot of that with the JEDs and JEDZs, they're reimbursed. Do you have that set up where those are going to be, where we deal with that quarterly or just so we don't miss that? So we can get, because we expend those funds and then we get them reimbursed through the JEDs and JEDZs.
For some of these, I guess, that's about right. I was thinking electric and stuff. Is that not, are these amended things? Amended POs like added on to, or there's some of that?
That AEP bill for $1,863 was just January.
So you did PO for just one?
I did for this one, yes.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, that seemed really low.
Yeah, the natural
For the
gas,
whole year.
the natural gas of 6,000 is,
For the whole year?
is for the whole year.
Okay.
The Office 365, do you know how many subscriptions that is?
I think we're at 10, it said.
That seems high.
It is, and it's every month that we pay that.
Because I have a.
Oh, wait, you're looking, that's the whole year I did it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's for the whole year. The
Okay.
2,300 is for the whole year,
I'm surprised, because
or the rest of the year.
my subscription's like $100, 160. That seems double. I wonder why.
I don't know if it's a special thing since it's government.
Government with the email. Okay, I'll look into that. It just seems high, especially for 10 people, because it goes by per person. I'll look at that. I was curious about that. But all right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
All right. Motion to bills. So I will move to go into executive session pursuant to ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges, complaints against a public employee, official, VC, or regular individual. And this will be for the employee annual evaluations for Don Coakley and Ethan Renz, the JEDZ and JEDD board appointees, and our assistant zoning inspector, and discuss the hiring of the administrator. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
All right, we are in executive session at 8:14 p.m. Try to make this
2/3 of the time you guys ran there, he was giving me a history lesson on these papers. Oh, that's.
He taught.
Oh, my gosh.
Did he do the refugee track?
Oh,
Yes, that's what that is.
Okay.
2 Refugee Road.
All right, you're on, Mark.
All right. I move to come out of executive session. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, roll call, I'll do that. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, yes. Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
All right, we are out of executive session at 9:25 p.m. We're going to deal with employee evaluations. Don Copeland, Bubba. We reviewed your evaluation, and I would like to move to increase Don Copley's hourly rate of pay to $29.50 per hour starting at the next pay period. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. McKee seconds. Discussion? I'd just like to say thank you for all the service you do for the township. I think our money's well spent with you, and you deserve the raise, and, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, all right, roll call, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, yes. Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
All right, now we move to Ethan Lorenz. I would move to increase Mr. Lorenz's hourly rate to $22.50 per hour, starting at the next pay period. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. McKee seconds. Discussion? Again, I want to thank you for all your hard work for the township, and looks like you're doing very well, and supporting Bob as you can. So thank you. Keep it up.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, yes. Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
All right, and I think we covered everything else, correct? All right, I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will second.
Mrs. McKee seconds. Roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, yes. Mrs. McKee?
Yes.
And we are adjourned
Objection.
at 9:27 p.m.
Why you start